Welcome back, everyone, to day two of the Living in Alignment immersion. I have an incredibly fabulous human with me today, Stacy Olsen of Chicago. Welcome, Stacy. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And I would love and be honored to offer an introduction so everyone listening gets a flavor or a taste of who you are. So,
I can't wait
as
to
a
hear.
Cancer rising, Stacy has incredible water wisdom. She has embodied intelligent emotional knowing. She's incredibly intuitive and empathic, and I have personally leaned on this wisdom more than one time. She's a Taurus sun. She knows how to rest. She knows how to move in alignment and to wait for the pings, the intuitive hits before she takes action on things. She is a Scorpio moon, and we're going to talk about that fifth house Scorpio and how you don't really play in the shallow waters, my friend. We're going to go there. And Stacy is someone who's walked the journey of corporate to cosmic. We're going to dive into that. I've read that and I want to ask you all about it. And she is unapologetically inspired by art, by Chicago and Champagne, by hockey and tarot. So, Stacy is now living her highest expression of this Taurus sun as she is passionate about capital B, capital E being, and she supports other women to live their most authentic selves and guides them to find their Ludivine divine light.
Mm.
Did I pronounce that properly?
You did. Yeah. It's actually not a word, it's a name. And so it's a French name. And so that's in France, they pronounce it Ludivine. I was pronouncing it Ludivine as my ever American self for a while. And then I heard someone actually from France say it. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's how we're doing it now.
Ludivine, that's how we're doing it. Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, so first, thank you so much for being here.
Oh.
I would love to first ask you about this corporate to cosmic piece. And it leads me to ask about a time in your life where you may not have known it at the time, but where you were living out of alignment. And now, retrospectively, you can see it so clearly. What did living out of alignment feel like for you? And then the second part of that question is, did the universe give you a kick in the ass? Where or more, there may have been several.
Yeah.
Where and how were you guided back into alignment and back into this version of who you are now?
Ooh, juicy questions. Okay, I might have to ask you to repeat, but okay, so living out of alignment. Yes, for sure. Did not think that I was. So corporate world, I was, I don't know, 15 years in, let's say, and was at the top of my corporate game. I worked for the same person in a C-level executive assistant role for like 16 years. And so about year 8 or 9, I was kind of making a lot of money and I was getting to travel and I was taking on bigger projects and I was just like, socializing and what I thought was living the life. And it wasn't until later that I realized it was very misaligned because I was also drinking pretty heavily. I was on 5 different medications to manage depression and anxiety and all of the things, putting myself to sleep at night. And the things that I was doing was like I wasn't getting home from an event and being like, oh, that just fed my soul. It was like I was passing out or, I was doing my laundry at 11:30 at night because I didn't have time any other time. And so it wasn't until I started doing yoga teacher trainings on the weekends and I can't remember when this all like coincided, but one of the guys that I worked with said, "So what are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm teaching a yoga teacher training." And he was like, "So you're working all weekend?" And I was like, "Wait, am I? Wait, what's going on?" And that's really what kind of triggered the whole, like I always said, at some point I want to retire from corporate and teach yoga on a beach. That was going to be my retirement career. And I started thinking, maybe I could do that sooner. Am I already doing it? Wait, does this corporate really, is it fulfilling me? Is making a lot of money and traveling and going out really what I want in life? And so it was a number of triggers and ass kickings from the universe that prompted me to take a different direction and find my true alignment.
This is so interesting because to me, knowing how connected you are to your body now, it I know you have a past, but I've only known you for such short window as who you are now. So it's interesting for me to be hearing about this past where you were incredibly disconnected from your body and operating in the way that we're taught by overculture to operate, which is to numb, to shut off, to do whatever it takes to continue on the path that our mind set for us or the path that we should be taking. And it's interesting how we strive for success, oftentimes not even asking ourselves what that means to us.
Yeah.
And I was peeking at your chart, and I'll bring it up here for anyone watching
Please do.
and for
Please
you to
do.
see. Yes. So there's something here that wants to be talked about, and it's your Taurus sun in the 11th house. So as you're speaking about this corporate version of you, this old you, um, were your interactions fueling you? Were they making you excited? What was your community like at that time? Because your sun in your 11th house, now I know that the interactions that you're having, the community that you surround yourself with feels really nourishing. And I'm curious if you can speak into the contrast of who you were surrounded with then. And as a Cancer rising with this watery part of you, how did it change or inform the way that you operated, continuing to drive an inauthentic you? And now who you are after you get to be these, you get to share these two very different contrasting experiences of this. Is this making sense?
It is. And I feel like I was living both of those lives in parallel because I
Mm.
remember at one point I had to take one of those personality tests, like the EFJ, whatever that one is, Myers-Briggs, I think. And I was answering the questions, and the person that was asking me to take it, I said, am I supposed to answer these questions like I'm at work or like I'm at home? And they were like, just answer the questions. And I was like, well, wait, there's different answers for, like you were saying, how do I emotionally hold myself in a certain situation? Well, it was different from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, than it was Saturday at 3 p.m. So
Wow.
I was, it was very cancerish of me because it was very much that hard outer shell, but inside I was like dying to be nurtured and held and supported in my authentic life.
Do you feel like there was anyone that really saw you at that point in your life?
Ooh, maybe one or two people.
Okay. Super, super interesting. And
Yeah.
now share with us the contrast. Like how has leaving corporate allowed you to take off the shell and sort of live instead of this like split personality, live in integrity and authenticity all the time? And how is that blossoming for you?
Well, I feel definitely that, well, I have no regrets. I'll say that much. Everything led me to where I am right now, and right now is really fucking awesome. So I have no regrets about any of the paths that I've taken. I feel obviously much more free to say and do whatever I please and not have to conform to, oh, well, it's, 8 to 5 and you have to do this, or even things like you have to have health insurance and you have to pay this much and you have to follow these certain rules according to who. And now I just follow my own. And none of my own rules go outside of, social. I'm not murdering people or being mean. It just is a much more freeing. It reminding me right now of the tarot card, the Devil Tarot card in the traditional tarot, where it's kind of this mean ogre looking guy and he's got these people in front of him who are chained up. But if you look really closely at the chains, they could just go, okay, I'm done and walk away.
Yeah, yeah,
That's kind of how I felt. Like the chains were there, but also I knew I don't have to live this way. I don't have to do this.
yeah.
I can support my own path.
Yeah, I've been so for those of you that are new to Stacy's work, she offers a weekly tarot and it's via Telegram. I every single Sunday make sure that I have quiet time to watch and listen, and I'm always listening and paying attention to the intuitive pings that come up that make it really personal for me. And you've brought up sort of this theme of the devil for a couple weeks now, but even before that, there was themes of sort of being in your own, a cage of your own mental making, if that makes
Mm,
sense. And
yeah.
not from a conscious, I'm going to box myself in this way, but from a subconscious, we don't see the ways that we keep ourselves enslaved or in cages. So it's interesting that here you are on this journey of like, wait a second, every time you realize that there's a bar that could go, you're tearing away that bar of your mental cage and becoming even more free. And I want to talk about your fifth house ruled by Scorpio and your moon being here because you don't seem like someone who would have a lot of energy living in this inauthentic corporate world when you have to be surface level nice girl Stacy. And now you get to be tarot unhinged, your TikTok. Like you're moving in a direction that feels naughty. It feels scorpionic with this diving into the underbelly. You want conversations that are rich and deep and fulfilling and a little taboo. And you want to talk about all of it. There's nothing really, at least in my experience with you, off the table or off limits. You're always like, yep, right there. And I can feel in you, especially when we get to something good, almost like an excitement. Like it lights you up to go there. And I've never felt from you a shying away or like a taboo area, if that makes sense. Do you want to speak into that?
Yeah, and I think that kind of going back to what we were talking about before with the corporate, I kept myself very private. Like my whole life has kind of been that way. Like long time ago, I got engaged to be married, and when the wedding invitations went out, people were shocked because they didn't even know, number one, that I was dating, or two, that I had gotten engaged. So, like, I've always kept things that are personal to me very close to the vest.
Mhm.
And in corporate, there was never that. I was close with people I worked with, but it was also very surface level close. We didn't get into discussions like you and I have had, or we didn't get into the scorpionic deep waters of emotions
Yeah.
very often
Mhm.
because we were working, and that just wasn't the basis of our relationships. So it was easy to kind of mask that
Mhm.
and really just be my Taurus self, which was getting shit done and bossing people around when I had to.
Yeah, and Taurus is of Earth, right? So it is sort of like I can focus on the 3D, the material, the muggle world, if you will.
Yes.
And but eventually I'm curious at what point in your life you started craving people that could meet your Scorpio moon. And in another interview, we talk about the anatomy of the psyche looking like or resembling an iceberg. And you know this analogy, but the conscious part of the iceberg is that 5% that sticks above the water, and the subconscious is that 95 that's below the water. And that works that works like our psyche. So there's so much about Scorpio that wants to be mysterious, that wants to stay a little bit hidden, and that sort of gets a bad rap from society because, at least at this time in humanity's evolution, the vast majority of polite society doesn't really go to Scorpio areas, and therefore it's very misunderstood. So I'm wondering what's coming up for you as I'm speaking about that.
Well, the image of the iceberg is also one of the very first teachings that when I was in yoga teacher training and then when I started teaching trainings, the instructor that I worked with, that was literally on day one, was what we talked about. The fact that yoga is like an iceberg and people only see this much of it. They see downward facing dog and meditation and chanting, and they don't see what is beneath it. So I think probably I really started to realize the depths of myself when I started practicing yoga, which
Mm.
was actually the recommendation of my therapist at the time. And turned out the studio she recommended me to, I ran into her one day because she practiced there too. But yes, in fact, my very first yoga class it was a 6 week, like get to know yoga course. The very first class taught only breath, how to breathe. And I was sitting there thinking, we're going to breathe for an hour. This is ridiculous. And when I left there, I had never been more relaxed, more grounded, more clear in my life. And that was the end of it for me,
You were
or the
hooked.
beginning of it for me.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So there seems to be just such a journey of kind of leaning into that moon part of you and letting her out and letting her be seen. And it's interesting because I imagine that there wasn't all like, okay, all of the pills and all of the booze is like gone suddenly. But I'm wondering if you can speak of the you coming out of your shell moments and what that felt like. And was there anything that was major? Did you take the shell off or half of it off? Or was it a slow inching out? And now here you are.
It was probably a little of both. I think the first here's what popped into my head when you were talking about that. I was on a trip on a cruise that I had been invited to go on. I knew not one person on this cruise, except for the person I was going with, and was in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean, bowling in the bowling alley with a glass of champagne, and met this couple who was there working, and got to know the gal, and she and I kept in touch afterwards. I wound up hiring her as my nutrition coach, but really it turned into life coaching and such. But actually, it was working with her that I got off of all my medications. So I worked with her and like my doctors and weaning myself off of stuff. But it was really the work with her was starting to dig into okay, why do you think you need depression medication? Why do you think you need anxiety medication? Why do you think you need medication to sleep? It was starting to really uncover a lot of my habits and shift them. So getting better sleep and getting on a sleep schedule. I used to say sleep is my superpower, which I still actually say that. But getting to the root of things rather than the medicating of things.
Yeah. Okay, so this is really cool because the ping that comes in as you're speaking about this is if we think about our natal chart and the sun being this big fiery fucking ball that has the potential to burn us out, and you leaning into this earth energy of always doing, even though Taurus, the healthy expression, is incredibly present, incredibly capable of receptivity, of pleasure, of being in the moment. Taurus in a low expression is just doing. It's sort of this stubborn energy of like, well, made the plan. I'm just gonna show up. I'm just gonna do the things. So it's interesting because working with her, it sounds like you were really able to lean into your earth, which I know in astrology isn't necessarily depicted. But if you look at where your sun is in Taurus, directly opposite that is your earth. And you and I have talked about this before, I believe. But your earth is Scorpio, which happens to also be your moon. So it was almost like leaning into this earth helped even out or bring your Taurus into a healthier place. And then also started to activate a little bit of this moon in you, this little subconscious part that was ready to come out a bit more. So that sounds so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting because anytime I would visualize grounding, I would never visualize like grass and dirt. I would always visualize sand. And because it's so obviously connected to the water. So anytime I was visualizing, that's interesting that you bring that up because the earth that always came to my mind was the sand right on the beach.
Yeah, and you have this dream to be teaching yoga and retiring on the beach, and you're meant to
Right.
be by the water.
Yeah.
Do you have any water rituals that you practice now?
Well, I do like I care for my water. I drink out of my copper cup because it's helping to regulate. One of my most favorite like sciency things is the Dr. Emoto water project where, like he gets water molecules and if you say, sweet things to them or you sing to them, they turn into these beautiful, they look like snowflakes. And then if you play angry music or you're yelling or you use words like hate or something, you can write it on a glass and you look at the water and it's all like kind of ruddery looking.
Mhm.
Um, so I think like just speaking into my water, I will like, infuse it with different things and then drink it and feel
Yeah.
really good about it.
Okay, I love this. And the human body is such a huge percentage of water. So
Yeah.
I love nerding out about this kind of stuff, but I have a podcast episode all about the rules of the subconscious mind. I think it's episode number 7, but it talks about some of the things that we want to be mindful about when we're speaking to ourselves and how we can essentially harness our conscious intellect to begin changing the frequency of our being. And that's a very Cliff Notes version of it. But what you're saying is that language, words hold frequency, and frequency is can be felt by our being, by our body, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So are you mindful of your language when you're speaking about yourself? Like, I know this to be true, but I want listeners to know.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I used to, I'm trying to think, there's one example that I had. Oh, when I was trying to kind of shift some of my inner thought, I would find myself thinking, stop thinking, like kind of disciplinary. And then I worked that into like just shh. So if I would feel myself, starting to overthink or something, I would just go, okay, as a more comforting way of doing that. So yes,
Mhm.
definitely. And trying to eliminate certain words from my language and I say love all the time.
Oh
Call
yeah, you
people
can you
love. I
you
say
can
that I
riff
love
on love.
things. Yeah, for
You can riff
sure.
on love. Talk to me about romanticizing your life, you Taurus being.
Oh, yeah. Just make everything the most romantic thing possible. And um like even getting ready for meeting with you, I had my music on, I had, my water with me and just enjoying every moment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I know that you like even I remember there's a couple specific times that stand out to me. And you and I had been talking about starting a cleanse. And you're like, oh, yeah, just go get your bathroom ready, light the candle, fold your towels nicely, get your favorite towels in there, leave yourself a book. You're going to be in there all day. You might as well make it nice. And I was like, fuck yes. Like, you're talking about this Scorpio elimination that could be nasty, and here you are, a Taurus, like bringing in the candle and the potpourri and like whatever it is, you know? So I had a chuckle at that. And then there's another story that has always stuck with me since I heard it. And you
Ooh,
were talking about this date that you got ready for and how you left your building and the doorman was like, "Damn, Stacy." I don't know what the doorman actually said, but "Damn, Stacy." And then you left and you had these different encounters all throughout your evening and you spoke about the most incredible date ever. And spoiler alert, it was with yourself. Yeah. And it was just like, I was like, oh, you clever little diva. Because it was so cool to listen to. I was hanging on by a thread, sitting on the edge of my seat, whatever you want to say. And you romanticized yourself. And it was just such a beautiful way of giving yourself that love.
yeah. I mean, no one else is going to do it for me, so
Still practicing receptivity.
yeah, completely.
I'm curious if you have any, well, I did look up, I have two things I want to say. I'm curious if you have any questions for me
Ooh.
where we can look at your chart, no pressure. And I did look up your progressed moon. And if you're familiar with progressions, it's essentially this 29-year cycle that we're in. And it's broken up by 12 different sections. But you are currently, as of last May, in a Libran progressed moon cycle, which is all about your deeper emotional needs and Libra,
Mm.
as you know, is balance, harmony, and relationship. So I'm curious how this, like, if this resonates and how it's showing up in your life specifically since last year, and if you're craving being in relationships, thinking about others more than you have in a long time. Like, how is that showing up for you?
Yeah, definitely interested in being in relationships. Excuse me. And oh, let me take a sip. We can both take a sip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really being that romantic, deep, supportive, everything for myself, I feel is opening the path for relationships to form or to be nurtured.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're presenting themselves to me. Also, I feel very much like having met you and all of the beautiful women that are in the groups that we run in now. I have been looking for that type of support where I can be my most authentic, unhinged self and not have to refute it or defend it or explain it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can say off the wall wacky shit to you about, oh, I saw a sign of this, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you just go, oh my gosh, that's so exciting, rather than, okay, you know, and
She's
not
batshit in the best way.
exactly. So I feel like what you mentioned before about craving that type of support, yes, also I've got it. It's here and it's coming to me in forms that I didn't ever expect. And so it's just been the receptivity, the being open, the
Mm-hmm.
being so secure in myself that nothing can possibly shake me. And I can share that with my small circle that I have now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all good.
Mm-hmm. This is amazing. I feel called to ask you about sacred rage.
Oh, ask me. I don't know. What is it?
Just if you've ever had this experience that feels ancient and that feels like you're processing for more than yourself, and that feels like you've come into contact with what is unjust in the human experience that's been held in the collective, particularly in the feminine. And I'm curious if you've come into contact with that, or if you've like what comes up for you when we talk about that?
Two things come up. One is one of my past lives, I was actually a suffragette, and I was able to go to Bath, England, not long after I discovered that, and literally found the spot where I had been protesting and fighting for women's rights and all of that. And then I did a little bit of that in this lifetime. I was on a political campaign where I was doing that. Also, though, it it served me in the moment. However, that's not what I was, that's not my role here, is not to be the rage. It's not to be the in marching and protest. It's not to be in the conflict of it.
Hmm.
It's just to be, which was actually one of the things that I was ostracized a bit for during like the pandemic or like when George Floyd was murdered. I was told by friends of mine, you should be screaming from the rooftops, this, and this.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to keep my peace. And they said, oh, well, that's not doing anything. And I was like, well, it is for me. So, but
Yeah.
also I've many times said, and someone will say, you know, oh, we're never going to see an end to racism in our lifetime. And I always say, I am, because that's why I'm here. I literally believe that this is my purpose being on this earth is to visibly see the change that I and everyone wants to see.
Hmm.
So I feel like I'm going to be on this earth for a long time in this lifetime because it is going to take some time, but also wheels are already in motion. Like we are headed towards that grand new world, new earth, however you want to put it, new paradigm. And I truly feel like between my past lives and things that I've done there and just the work I'm putting into myself and shining out now is going to be the change.
Hmm. Hmm. I love this. I say all the time that the light is already won. And I think for listeners, I'd love to pull this apart a little bit more because some people cannot comprehend that even though you are not participating in the conflict in a earthly way, that there's still something that we're doing. I say quote doing for anyone listening with no camera in the future, but some of us are not here to participate and continue feeding energy into the outplay in the material world. Some of us are here to anchor in a different frequency and begin fueling a timeline that we are birthing and bringing in and is already here or on its way, however you want to look at that. But I think that's an important distinction to make because there are a lot of people who get hung up or angry or hurt by a lack of quote participation in some ways or in the ways that they think that we should. And I
Mhm.
am not a fan of shoulding our way through life ever.
Me either. Yeah, me either.
Yeah, exactly. And there's one more thing that's coming in here.
Well, and also just real quick, everyone has a role. There are people on this earth who are meant to be the protesters and the fighters and the, you know, out there screaming from the rooftops. Good on them. I applaud them for standing up for themselves. That's just not me. And also, if everyone would just there was this video forever ago, like when YouTube first came out, and the little girl trying to put her seatbelt on, and her dad's like, "Can I help you do that?" She says, "No, worry about yourself." If everyone just worried about themselves, the world would progress a lot quicker. But it's that, you know, I should be or you should be. It's people that are stepping outside of their own lives and trying to direct how everything is supposed to go.
Mhm.
When, in essence, if we just went within and took steps forward based on our own authentic desires, the world would be a much more peaceful place.
Yeah, and I think I want to give some context here for people because I know exactly what you're speaking about, and I know exactly what you're speaking about when you say everyone comes earthside with a role. And I think that it's really important to add that this is a conversation that we're having from a fairly expanded place. It's not to abandon the physical or ignore the physical completely. We're not totally Delulu, like a little bit of Delulu, but not
Little
totally Delulu. But it is sort of from this perspective of my soul came here to participate in a different way, and that there are all different humans at all different levels. And from that soul higher self perspective, you can thank the people that are suffering for their commitment to waking up humanity.
totally.
Just adding that in there. And if
Yeah.
you want to riff on that or add to that, please feel free.
No, I 100% agree. And one of the other mantras that I've had for quite some time is no one's 100% right and no one's 100% wrong.
Mm,
So take that for what it is. And we're not all here to agree on everything, and we're not all here to live the same life. We're all here to have our own human experience.
mhm,
And that involves so many factors, including our charts and our purpose and how we want to really drive it.
Yeah. Okay. Personal choice, willpower, freedom. A lot of
Free
times.
will, yes, love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people can get this idea that with astrology, there's some sort of destiny that you're meant to follow. And it's cool. It's honestly a blueprint that you can peek at and you can see some potential immature expressions or challenges, and you can see some potential mature, light, divine expression, but it's up to you whether or not you lean into one or the other. But what you just said about not everyone's 100% right, not everyone's 100% wrong, it makes me think of your fourth house ruled by Libra and how there's probably always been a part of you that has grown to, and I don't know what your upbringing was like. Maybe you were raised to consider others more than yourself, and your journey has actually been to bring you more online and consider yourself more and find this equanimity between other and self. Only you would know that. But I have a feeling that you've lived your entire life with this connection to other, and I think that that's part of the human experience, of course, but for you it's probably shown up in almost a unconscious subconscious way. You've just been raised with that desire or connection to equality, to balance, to harmony in yourself and in relationship. So I'm curious if that brings up anything for you or if you want to pull that apart.
Well, um, I'm not sure if this relates, but here's what's coming through. So I was raised in a very strict religious household. So it was the Bible or it was the Bible. There was no alternative. I, however, always was questioning things. And even when I was young, I wasn't so much told, well, it's because the Bible said so, or, because I said so. It was more of like, well, it's ingrained because of this. So it was like trying to get deeper and deeper ingrained in me. And I still was like resisting. In fact, one of the teachings was that rather than a heaven and hell, there was like a plan. It was like a new earth, a new world order where we were going to live forever on earth. And I was like, fuck that. I don't want to live forever on earth. I don't care how perfect it is or how happy I am. No, thank you. And it would literally stress me out. I would have panic attacks like in church if they started talking about that because I was like, I don't want that. Like, what do I have to do to just die? I'd be okay with that. And
Yeah.
then as I got older, there was other teachings where it was like, no, I got to tell you, I don't agree with that. However, if you spoke to that, it was not good. You were going to get in trouble or you're going to get kicked out or whatever. So it wasn't until finally, like after my got divorced from this man that I married, that I was finally, you know what? there's enough things about this that I don't agree with. I just can't be part of this anymore.
Mhm. Do you feel like you were participating for others then?
Um, I felt like I was participating out of pure obligation. And if there was any one person that I was doing it for, it was my mother who essentially said, it's this or it's nothing. Like,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't say I did it for her because I was at one point very involved, and that was purely for me. So I wouldn't say I really did it for others. I would say I just did it out of obligation and thinking I had no choice. Again, I had those shackles on. Here's religion. This is what we do. And I didn't see the ease of going, oh, well, what if I slipped it off and
Mhm.
went a different direction? I didn't see myself as having a choice.
Mhm. Did your divorce by any chance coincide with your Saturn return?
I was 28 when I got divorced.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. I was like, there's no way that this Saturn didn't like redirect her and create massive alignment. For
That's
those
hilarious. I've never even thought of that until right now.
Yeah, I fucking knew it. So for anyone listening that doesn't know Saturn, Saturn is a planet that you want to befriend in your chart because Saturn will never bullshit you. Saturn will not sugarcoat anything. Saturn will also not take no. Saturn is here, yes, Saturn is here to keep you on a trajectory where you are aligned with why the fuck you're here and what your higher purpose is. So my moon and Saturn are like conjunct each other, and it's like, I just cannot bullshit myself. Once you know better, you do better. Once you see the truth, you can't ignore it. That kind of vibe, you know? There's so much more I could rant about Saturn, but then it won't be about celebrating Stacy. It will be about Saturn. So
We can celebrate Stacy and Saturn.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so Saturn return coming out of this like old way of being where it's like so obvious that you don't fit there anymore. And now here you are post Saturn return and it probably felt a little bit like I was gonna say unhinged, but untethered because there was so much that was new, right? Like recently divorced and now on your own in a life where you probably had a ton of support coming from family with this religious background, or you just knew that your way of life would be supported because you weren't ruffling feathers, essentially. So I'm curious if you want to share about coming off of this Saturn return.
Well, so because I got divorced and because I left the church, I eliminated that support system. So my new support system was this corporate world that I had entered a few years into my marriage. And the support was fantastic and developed lifelong relationships. And then one return later, that system is now all gone too. So it's interesting to see that cycle.
Mhm.
And really, I've been fine through all of it. Granted, it's not fun to lose friends or, to have a disagreement and have to go separate ways all the time,
Mhm.
sever relationships or connections. But it's all for a purpose. And when you're standing so firm in your own self, like that's really what I have most recently gotten to. It's like I've got me, and that's great. Everything else is a bonus, is amazing. I love it.
Mhm.
It just it always comes back to self.
Yes, okay. This is the part I love so much. This choosing self again and again and again. And on your very unique evolutionary path, it only makes sense that you can't bring everyone with you, especially when you are continuously choosing to evolve. And what you just said about of course it's not fun to go through the uncomfortable thing and your intuition is rarely fucking convenient. That is very Saturnian, right? You're doing what you need to do because there is actually no other way. You know, it's not like you can go back to pretending. that would
Right.
feel completely out of alignment. So just choosing yourself along your evolutionary path, and I know that you're in a really beautiful place where you've got neutrality around the disconnect of old relationships to the point where if they were to come back around, there wouldn't be any emotional blockage if something were to start up again. And it's cool to witness someone who's been fine if it works, fine if it doesn't. I'm me, I've got me, and I'm going to keep having me. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go back to, I just am to the point where I just can't be shaken anymore.
Okay, this is what I want to hear more about this part where what does it feel like now? What does it feel like to be aligned with Stacy Olsen at this point in your life? What does it feel like for you?
Oh gosh. It feels very at home, very settled, it's very dreamy. It's very, um, trying to think of some more good words. It's just very authentic and yeah, very settled and content. Very, oh, there's a yogic word that's about like the ultimate like epiphany level. Now I can't think of what it is,
Oh,
but
it'll come to you probably after this interview.
uh,
Are you talking
it's
like Nirvana?
similar, yes. It's like I've got like a million yoga books right there. They're all kind of going, it's this, but I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Samadhi.
Oh, samadhi. I was gonna say svastha, where it's this sva meaning self and stha meaning situated in, and it's like
Mm,
this firm situation in self,
that too. That
which
too.
is
Yeah.
a beautiful way of looking at it.
Yes.
I also want to ask you if there's like a certain level of sass that this like main character energy that comes online when you are, of course, on the flip side, there's softness and presence and contentment and samadhi. And on the other side, there's this like unfuckable with a little bit. Like there's some spice in there.
There is for sure. I think I scared to death, although she keeps coming back. A friend of mine the other day, this was a while ago, we were at happy hour drinking champagne. I know this seems like a theme, but anyway, it is. Um, and she was telling me this story that I did not want to hear. And I just said, I don't want to hear that. I don't, it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't adore you. I don't want to hear this story.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she was like, oh, okay. I was like, find another friend to tell. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have um, I don't suffer fools is I think the saying. If there's something I just don't want to be involved in, well, and even just saying no. If someone sends me an invitation or says, hey, do you want to, maybe back in the day I would have said, oh, I don't really feel well, or oh, I have other plans. Now I just go, I don't want to do that. No desire.
Yeah, this is the Taurus part. This is being well boundaried and unapologetic. And I want you to pull that apart for us because it's
Yeah.
really interesting that you had up until your first 28 years, your first Saturn return, there was a lot of obligation in your life. And now it's like there's a lot of unapologetic in your life, which is really cool to witness.
Yeah, that's one of the things that when I do yoga teacher trainings, there's a few words that are not allowed, and one of them is sorry. Why are we sorry? Like if you look up the definition of that word, it's not a pretty picture. And if you're saying sorry for existing, why are we doing that? So that's one word that we try to obliterate, and that we use other words like excuse me. If someone's walking into the door the same time you are, oh, sorry, is especially in the Midwest, that's a huge thing.
Hmm.
It's no, it's we don't need to apologize for going out of a door. Like we didn't do this on purpose. Um, Another thing is using fewer, it doesn't sound like it now right from me, but using fewer words, such as if someone says, hey, can you meet me tonight at 7? rather than making up excuses or telling long explanations, no is a complete sentence. And also showing gratitude and not dimming yourself. So if someone, like if I say to you, your earrings are fabulous, thank you is an appropriate response, not, oh, I got them on sale or, oh, I wasn't going to wear them today. No one needs to know. Thank you. Move on.
Hmm.
So being really concise and being really, I say this in my WTF group, like know where you want to spend your fucks. You've got fucks to give. Where do you want to give them? I choose to savor mine and hold on to mine until a really good opportunity. Then I give a fuck and then it's done.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. This from you feels like gold. Like if people are listening and they're like, yeah, this interview is good, like this is the piece that feels like fuck yes, this is the unapologetic, like this is the part that needs to be expanded from you. And I know you are expanding this and getting to a place where you're sharing this with the world, both with your tarot and with your coaching business and all of this. Like this is I feel like what people want from you. Actually, let me look at your MC. Let
Okay,
me look at your chart.
let's go, MC.
Okay, it's interesting. You've got your MC in Pisces, so same as me, which is cool because MC in Pisces
More
is
water.
more water, but it's very mystical, right?
Mhm.
So it's like people want the tarot from you. They want intuition from you. They want the empathic part of you, but there's this level of Taurus well-boundaried connection to Venus. And you and I have gone on deep dialogue with Venus, but Venus is this archetype that as a culture we're not super familiar with because when we think about the feminine in our culture, oftentimes we see it displayed in books, in movies, in real life examples as someone who is like weaker than or reliant on, needs support, or she's conniving or she's participating in a masculine way, right? Use
Mhm.
movies as an example. Like you've got the star of the movie who's a woman, but she is a crotch rocket riding spy who shoots people and stabs, assassins in the throat with her boot fucking knife. You know what I mean? Like, where is the example in our culture of Venus who knows her fucking worth?
Yeah.
Who's well boundaried, who uses no as a full sentence, who is absolutely unapologetic in what she desires and deserves. And just painting a picture, like I have never been in your apartment, but like listening to you over the years, watching you speak, watching you talk about life, like there's this level of attraction that you have for that which is luxurious. And I think that this is the Taurus, this is the Venus part of you because you are quite capable of connecting with your worth. Does this feel resonant?
Oh God, yes. I've always said I don't have a lot of things, but when I do, they're nice things. These earrings, for example, these are Tiffany. I've had them for probably 25 years. When I bought them, they were $125 or something. Now I think they're like $600, ridiculous. But when I bought them, someone said to me, "You can go buy hoops for $1 somewhere." And I was like, ew, why would I do that? No, I'm buying the luxurious blue box hoops for myself because I fucking can. And 25 years later, they're still in my ears.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've never had a lot of things, but I have nice things.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
very, very resonant for me with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think this like Venus Piscean quality is like what's coming through you in the ways that you serve the world because it's self-worth and let's figure out who the fuck you are when you stand in your self-worth.
Totally. And when you were talking about Venus, you know what the first thing that popped into my head was the razors, like the razor blades for women
Yeah.
called Venus. But also that means like society is saying, oh, to be feminine, to be Venus, you have to shave, all of the hair off of your body. what? Like, no, those are the type of societal norms that make me insane that I just want to throw out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's because you're connected really to what matters, and worth has nothing to do with the exterior.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though like this is the internal to external conversation that I also have on another interview, but it's like your external gets to reflect what is internal. So yes, you have external, you have matter, you have luxury that is outside of yourself, but that is a result distinction that we need to make. It is a result of the
Yeah.
inner luxury that you're connected to and that
Yeah.
you've learned to connect to and to fucking expand.
Yeah. Totally. I know. Dance party break.
You're amazing. Do you have any questions for me about your chart that you want to dive into?
Oh gosh. I can't, nothing is coming to mind. We've, I mean, you're always so good and thorough about discussing things. Let's
Anything,
see.
yeah. Yeah, and like things that you want to celebrate. It's like, ooh, because we can look at real time too. I've got your transits up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let's see. The first thing that popped up is what's little Neptune down there doing? Is that Neptune in Sagittarius?
Neptune's right here.
Oh, there. Oh, I'm
Or
looking.
or do you mean your natal?
The natal one is the one that popped out. But tell me what, yeah, he kind of popped out.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you've got your Neptune in Sagittarius in the sixth house.
Mhm.
So, and it's opposing Venus here in your 12th house of the unconscious. So, there might have been over the course of your life and this is very background for two reasons. Because Venus is in your 12th house of the unconscious, this isn't something that you're going to be likely aware of on a regular basis. And also, Neptune being an outer generational planet feels more like an energetic backdrop in your life than it would feel like an obvious impact, like the solar seasons, for example. So, Neptune in the sixth house of Sagittarius is this part of you that is capable of dreaming up and imagining, envisioning wild, grand day to day life,
Mm,
right? This vision in you that values that, and there that it might have actually played with something that you value or had conflict with the ways in which you value life. So um, it's opposing your natal Venus in Gemini in the 12th house. So has there, this is my question for you, ever been a piece of you that resists the grand vision, that believes it's not possible? Is there something that blocks that? And you might not even be able to answer that because again, it's a little bit of an unconscious thing.
I mean, I would say the grand vision for me at this point is, I think we've talked about this before, having my own retreat center on the Turks and Caicos Islands. And it's been a vision for a long time, but it's one of those where it's faded back, and then every once in a while something will be like, don't forget, you wanna you wanna be here, you wanna be doing that. I think it's just over the years, so much has shifted in ways that I was not expecting. So it kind of puts that vision, it's like I've used this in one of my blogs before. Life's like a plate of spaghetti where it's, you think the path is this way, but really it's this way. And so I think that it's still out there as a vision, but it's shifting, which is really similar to when I first started doing this energetics work, which is about when I met you, and my word and is my law came into play. That served me for a time because I was really strict with myself with discipline by means of devotion and my word is my law. So sticking to those things. Then I started realizing, well, my word is my law, but what if the word changes? And then how do I navigate that? And so I've found now that it's not just that my word is my law, but my word is also my choice. I choose the words,
Mm-hmm.
then they become law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you get to make your own rules.
Yeah.
You get to decide what you value. You get to break your own rules if that's what is
I was going to
necessary.
say, and those can always change.
Yeah. Yeah, you are the maker. So this is interesting that so much of your work with the tarot in the last few months has been about tearing away that subconscious cage. Can you see this now in the
Yes.
creation of your grand? It's interesting that you were drawn to the Neptune natal in Sagittarius in the sixth house because obviously we're having this conversation. Everything's interesting, but I see this connection between the part of you that's been quite drawn to this unbecoming of our own cager and this path of freedom and this unapologetic liberation and being yourself. And yeah, so I'm for one, I'm really excited to see how this plays out and to continue witnessing your journey and your path and all the fun things.
Yes. Excited that you're here to witness.
Is there anything else that you want people to know?
Oh, goodness. Um, you already have all the answers. Sometimes you just need a little nudge or a hand to hold, and that's why I'm here. That's the purpose of me.
I love that. You already have all the answers. Fuck yes.
Heck
Okay,
yes.
my friend, you are incredible. Thank you so, so much for your time. The last thing that I want to ask is where people can find you. And I know that you've got an Instagram account and a website. So can you share that for listeners? And then I'll link it in the notes for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Instagram, there's been a bit of shuffling with my social media, but website is ludovinelife.com. And then the Instagram is living Ludovine. And that's also my Telegram and my Substack. And like I said, I'm kind of all over the place. However, I am in process of bringing them all together. So find me somewhere and I'll bring you in.
Yeah. Do you want to drop your TikTok as well?
Yes, that one is Tarot Unhinged.
Love it. Love it. Okay, you are absolutely incredible. I just want to breathe for a moment and see if there's anything else I want to ask you.
Yes,
Feels complete.
feels complete. Ah,